Hello everyone, I'm Sette. Thank you so much for dedicating the time out of your very busy schedules to sit with me and hear what I have to say regarding some of the astrological influences for this coming month of January 2016. We are at the beginning of a new year, and when we look at the number 2016, in numerology, we reduce that down to a single digit, which we take the 2, the 1, and the 6, and we add it up and we reduce it down to a 9. 9 is a very spiritual number. It has a high spiritual vibration. So I see this year of 2016 as a time for humanity to demonstrate its spiritual self first from what it is that we are being, and then through our actions. Certainly all that we create and all that we demonstrate comes first from our being, from the energy that we radiate from inside of us, from our intention. That's the origin of all our personal experiences, and then on a higher level from our human experiences. On January 5th, Mercury moves retrograde. That's the first retrograde period of 2016. And the point at which Mercury moves retrograde, it's in the early stages of Aquarius. Aquarius connects itself with the humanitarian, ourselves as being humanitarian to one another. It's also the sign of our friends. It's also the sign of our social connections, our social settings. You know, whenever Mercury goes retrograde, we want to use that time to go within, to reflect. All the RE words that I've talked about in the past, all of those RE words apply to the Mercury retrograde. Certainly, the Mercury retrograde period is not a time to be feared. It's not a time for us to really be of concern, especially when we understand the benefits that we can all gain from that period of time. It's simply a time to go within, to reflect, to review everything that we've been doing up until this point, so that we can connect with spirit and be guided from that place of spirit. One of the benefits that we can receive through this Mercury retrograde period is to reflect on our social settings, reflect on our friends, reflect on those relationships that are very, very close to us. You know, and certainly as all things that we experience evolve during the course of our lives, our friendships evolve as well. Sometimes we move past certain experiences. Sometimes we reconnect with old friendships. Actually, this Mercury retrograde period is one of the greatest times to reconnect with old friendships. Many times during a Mercury retrograde, we will find ourselves reconnecting with old friendships. Sometimes those who we have not heard from in a long time reach out to us. However, because Mercury begins its retrograde in the sign of Aquarius, the sign that is most and closely associated with friendships, it's a great time to reconnect with those who may have been on our minds from the past in the last few weeks leading up until this Mercury retrograde period. As I began saying, the sign of Aquarius connects with the humanitarian, that part of us that understands that we are all one. So certainly this is a time for us to reflect individually on how we connect to that oneness of the whole of all that is. We also have a few days after the Mercury retrograde, on January 9th, we have our first new moon of 2016. And certainly a new moon is the beginning of a new lunar cycle. Our new moon on January 9th is in the sign of Capricorn. Now, Capricorn associates with our goals, our highest achievements. On this new moon, it's certainly an optimal time to set in motion what it is that we would like to achieve in 2016. You know, many of us make our New Year's resolutions on January 1st. However, when we begin at the time of a new lunar cycle to set those energies in motion, we're really working with the flow of energy, with the natural flow of the rhythms of the cycles of the planets. So beginning all our goals on a new moon, especially with a new moon that connects with our goals, our long-term goals, our highest achievements, it's a great time to really see that as a time to generate and set those energies in motion. Capricorn also connects with our career and our profession. And one of the things that I want to tie in with this Mercury retrograde cycle specifically, is that even though the Mercury retrograde begins in the sign of Aquarius, it goes back into the sign of Capricorn. So the connection that I would like to make with that is when we establish our goals, or rather as we are establishing our long-term goals, our greatest achievements, as well as whatever it is that we would choose to achieve in our profession and our career, we can certainly see those desires as being very much a part of the humanitarian condition and the humanitarian cycle of experience that connects with our oneness. So certainly whatever it is that we do with our profession, rather whatever it is that we are being when we demonstrate our profession and our goals, certainly that can very much contribute to the oneness and the elevation of the consciousness of all of humanity. And quite honestly, it really doesn't matter what it is that we are doing. As I've said so many times, the profound understanding of it all really comes from our being, the energy that we are demonstrating from within us, the energy that we set in motion, that comes from our being, our essence, that higher spiritual self of who it is that we are. There's actually a couple of significant dates that I would like to highlight and reflect on, specifically connecting with our goals, our highest achievements, and who it is that we are becoming as humanitarians. On January 22nd and January 30th, Mercury connects with the planet Pluto. Pluto connects with empowerment. There's a tremendous amount of energy that is associated with that heavenly body. And when Mercury connects on those two dates with that heavenly body, we can receive profound awarenesses and profound insights and very powerful insights as to what it is that we may necessarily need to incorporate in our experience so that we can set in motion those goals and those energies and those intentions that began on this new moon, which is on January 9th. Mercury will be retrograde until January 25th. However, its effects are still in motion until about February 15th, and even though Mercury moves direct, it still needs a little bit of time before it picks up speed and before it's in full motion. And that date of February 15th is actually the exact point where Mercury moved into its retrograde phase. So certainly from January 25th until the 15th, proceed with caution. Remember that, you know what, those energies are still, those retrograde energies are still in play. So just be a little bit cautious, you know, take a little bit of extra time with your travel plans. Be aware that communication still may be somewhat unclear, but again, we never want to approach anything with fear. We never want to approach any of these planetary phenomena from a place of fear, because certainly Spirit has its intention for us to benefit from all the planetary cycles and all the planetary experiences. We have our next full moon on January 23rd, and that full moon, it's in the early stages of the sign of Leo. Leo connects with creativity. It also connects with divinity. Leo is ruled by the sun, and just reflect upon how the sun is the center of our universe, how all life really generates and stems from the sun, and also too from creativity. When we allow ourselves to express our creativity, we really do connect with divinity. And when we connect with divinity, in whatever form that we might choose to do that, we certainly demonstrate our creativity. I would encourage everyone at the time of the full moon and the days following the new moon to really become aware on how Spirit is showing you how you are a creative being, how you certainly, in whatever manner you choose to do so, can demonstrate that creativity. So many of us, when we hear the term creative, we think of those who are artists, those who are musicians. However, creativity is infinite. Creativity really has no limit and it has no restriction. So whatever manner that you are connecting that allows you to demonstrate that creativity, you are certainly connecting with divinity. It's also very much a part of the purpose, part of your purpose, with whatever that might be and what it is that you might need to experience, or rather what you have chosen to experience before you've come into this human embodiment, so that you can remember yourself as a creative being. And in doing so, we connect with our higher self, and we connect with divinity. So I encourage everyone, as we go through this year of 2016, as I began saying, that 2016, it connects with that number 9, that number of spirituality. Certainly remember, we are spiritual beings having a very human experience. And when you are establishing your goals for yourself, your long-term goals for yourself, your highest achievements for yourself, recognize that that inspiration in establishing and creating those goals is giving you the opportunity to connect with your divinity in whatever form that you might choose to do that. So begin this year certainly from a place of love, with clear intentions. As we go through this Mercury retrograde period, allow yourself to become very clear with your intentions of whatever it might be that you choose to establish as your highest goals and your highest achievements for yourself. Allow yourself to be guided in that way, so that when the Mercury retrograde is over and all the energy begins to move forward, you will receive the clarity that you need to continue nurturing those long-term goals, and recognize that it is really very much a part of how we can contribute to raising the consciousness and raising the vibration of humanity. Certainly, as we go through this year, we will be given the opportunity to offset any negativity that might demonstrate itself in the world. You know, in the last 6 months of 2015, we saw some rather less than humanitarian experiences take place in the world, and I certainly don't need to revisit any of that or re-emphasize the horror of what we've experienced. However, sometimes in order for us to really understand our spiritual self, we need to have experiences that are just the opposite. And many times that dichotomy, if you will, that contradiction doesn't really seem to make sense. However, when we just step back and we remove the judgment that we have on those experiences and allow Spirit to show us a greater sense of clarity, that's when we really begin to understand what we can do individually to offset any negativity that might take place in the outside world. So as we go through this year of 2016, I encourage you and I suggest to choose to connect with the higher self, choose to recognize that we really are spiritual beings having a human experience. Recognize the intentions that you set in motion, even with the slightest of words that may seem to be insignificant. Recognize that's part of the creative process, and that's how certainly we are contributing to all the experiences that manifest in the outside world. So, as always, stay in the light, stay in the place of love, take care of yourselves, give care to one another, and let's connect with that higher self that we're all connected to, and let's experience a little bit more joy as we go through this next coming year. Thank you again for dedicating this time, hearing with what I have to say. Stay in the light, stay in the place of love. Namaste, be well, and I will see you again very, very soon.